Oh, this is quite a exciting moment for me. My first live connection to the ISS and Expedition 69, no less. So, what a treat!
That's amazing. I'm so honored to get to talk with you. I've been a fan for a long time, and we get to basically give a call to somebody famous, and I was like, surely lots of people have talked to Steve Jurvetson, right?
No, this is the first.
So, such an honor.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited. Just even looking, you may see my eyes looking just past you at all the craziness going on in there. It's full of stuff.
Absolutely. Hey, I can take you around if you want to. Yeah, I mean, I know you know a lot about this place, so but I'm happy to. So right now we're in the GEM, the Japanese experiment module.
Okay.
It's famous for being the largest module on the ISS. Apparently, the Japanese engineers asked what the dimensions of the shuttle cargo bay are.
Yes.
And they made this thing like 6 inches smaller in diameter than the shuttle cargo bay at exactly its length.
Is this also called Kibo? Kibo?
Yes,
Ah,
that is correct.
I have photos on Flickr I took of Kibo under construction. So the thing you're in, I can show you
Cool.
photos of it before it was finished.
So you've been to Scuba.
No, where was this? They had it. Actually,
Okay.
while we're talking, I'll look that up. By the way, there's a lot less delay than they told me to expect. This is actually quite nice.
Yeah,
I'm
it comes and goes sometimes. The delay is both our Wi-Fi network here on the space station, and then, as you probably know, this is going up through TDRS. So we are talking through a geosynchronous satellite right now, which is kind of mind-blowing.
It is. Okay, here we go. I found it. Well, it's also mind-blowing that I can look this right up. So I saw it at Kennedy. I mean, maybe it was being conditioned, but it was, the Japanese experiment module. This was in 2007, in August 7th, which is, wow.
Yep.
That's crazy. That was like literally yesterday of the day of the year. And it's really cool looking. I'll send you afterwards, if there's an email or something, I can easily send you the photo of it, which you might like to have.
Oh, that'd be great. I would love to see that. Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm checking real quick to see if it's day or night, because we actually have windows in here. This is one of the few modules with windows.
Oh, wow.
There are those two circles right over my shoulder.
Yep, yep.
It's nighttime right now, so there's not much to see. But
You know what's
and then this
crazy
is
is I'm looking at the outside of the window right now. Like literally that door and the two
really?
windows are on the image. That is insane. Wait, let me pull it up so I can show it to you.
Let's go back here.
I'm going to pull it up on my phone just to show you also. Go ahead and finish what you're doing. But you've got to see this.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks cool. So are you going to open the window? Is that what you're doing?
So yeah, I'm opening it. It is really dark, but we can come back here and get a better view later.
Okay, so here's like the context, but then I'll zoom in and like. Oh wait, let me. Yeah, so I think the windows are covered, and the thing is down there. Isn't that wild? This is a photo I posted. You know, it's probably on Wikipedia somewhere, but it was just an extra thing.
Oh, that's so cool. Actually, that is a view that I never get, because I don't actually know. This is the airlock from the inside, but I don't actually know what it looks like.
Wait, hold tight for a sec. I'll just smile, and then you can tell me later if you ever want that photo shared anywhere, because it is literally face to face. The two. I have that window on top of this window. That's awesome. You look great.
It's so great. I love it.
Small world.
Cool.
So tell me, are you near the beginning of your mission, or where is it?
I'm actually getting toward the end. So I flew up on Crew 6. I flew up on a
That's right.
SpaceX Dragon.
And you're coming down on after 7 gets up there, or?
Exactly. Yeah. There's one asterisk on that, which I can share with you. But the plan is to come home end of August. So I'm 5 months in, actually getting toward the end here.
Wow.
So it's been an amazing journey, and it flew by. I wasn't sure if maybe it would be like a bad camping trip where I can't wait for it to be over in reality. But in reality, it's been like amazing. I'm not ready for it to be over.
I can imagine. Wow. So I've of course never been to space, but I know that I will. I've been in the zero gravity flights. And so I'm guessing that by 5 months in, you're completely used to the zero gravity environment or the microgravity in terms of just acclimating, getting around.
Yep. The human body adaptation is a fascinating part of it. It's mostly your vestibular system, your semicircular canals are just all. It's funny. I thought to myself, like, I'm a smart engineer that understands what's going on here. I'm weightless. Like, I'll just kind of intuit my way through what's going on, and it won't affect me. And I was totally wrong. It's it's really, you just feel really sick. Like, it feels like the world is spinning.
Oh, really?
Like a visceral sense of.
Now, is that how should I put this? Is that an experience some but not all have? What you described?
It varies. So they call it space motion sickness, and it is an experience that some but not all have.
Right, because Rusty Schweickart had it, and there was there was someone on Apollo 8 who had it, but didn't talk about it.
But it's kind of some people have it worse than others, and it by 2 weeks in, actually, I would say completely adapted.
Okay,
basically 100%. And it was basically just a kind of like an asymptotic thing. Like day one was much progress was made, and then day two, a bit more progress was made. By a weekend, I was probably, 80 or 90%, and 2 weeks in, I was 100%.
Wow.
And so it's interesting you say you will go to space. So that's in the plans, huh?
Oh, for sure. In fact, my wife, I got married in 2018, and she insisted that we have an agreement that if I go to Mars, that's cause for like game over. So she's okay with the moon, but Mars is a step too far because she knows enough, as I do, that that's not a vacation. That's a commitment. I mean, it's maybe a European vacation. You take 2 years off and, spend some time out there. But yeah, no, I have a very specific dream, actually, which is, of course, I want to see low Earth orbit. That's like a no-brainer. But I would, if I could like have my dream trip, it would be a lunar orbital mission, very low altitude, maybe even lower than Apollo 10 went, sort of skimming the highest points, and do an EVA and just Superman over all the valleys. Because, I get the sense from every photo I've seen that when you're on the surface, it's all very self-similar. It's a lot of grays, near and far objects look very similar. It's hard to tell distance. Yeah. It's a great experience, I'm sure, but not nearly as exciting, I think, as an EVA in orbit, which has not yet been done, around the moon, that is. And right. I have this feeling that, because you can be in orbit at a lower altitude than you could on Earth. And so given lack of atmosphere and the lesser gravity, it could be really pretty interesting. Not as dizzying as it might seem.
It's interesting. I actually, I'm sure some of it is just getting used to it, but I had this right after we got injected into low Earth orbit on Dragon. I think we were like 190 by 210, 190 kilometers by 210 kilometers. I think that's the initial orbit or so. And I could feel the speed so viscerally. Like looking out the window, it was just this visceral sense of speed. And it's funny, now I'm basically twice as high. We're 400 kilometers. And you can feel the speed in the sense that you watch these familiar places on Earth go by and you say, how did I just fly from LA to like Chicago in a couple minutes? But that visceral sense is not quite as much up here. So anyway, I think there's something to what you're saying about the altitude really does matter for that sense of speed. Yeah.
Fascinating. So
like being in an airplane.
Yeah. Because at the height you're at, I'm always curious what are the components of the overview effect. Is it altitude or is it lateral motion? And I have the sense that it's the rate at which things are passing by. I mean, obviously you can see. Well, the higher you are, I guess, the more of Earth you can see, right? In any one moment,
of course.
Right? Huh.
Yep.
Was one more like, other than the speed sense?
It's Apollo 8, right? Apollo 8 was the first crew to see the entire marble.
Yes.
In a single view.
That's right. The first to leave low Earth orbit.
Because people talk about the overview effect, but we're really close. We're way, way higher than any airplane, but it's still, the Earth is a big place.
Exactly. Tell me if you would agree with this sentiment. I personally don't have any interest in the suborbital flights, Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin. And it's not just competitive juices flowing. I honestly can't imagine that would be so exciting because New Mexico in particular is so fractally self-similar. The mountain ranges at altitudes of, high altitude balloons or airplanes or low Earth orbit, or not orbit, suborbital hoppers, aren't that different. Like it's any single image that you see from one of those flights isn't that impressive. And it was always my presumption that it's the orbital period and speed that really gets you. The fact that you see so much of the Earth and in so many different places, right? Whether it's lightning storms or whatever,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's true from many perspectives. I also was, I got to do we got rid of the so-called vomit comet, but there's actually a Canadian aircraft that I was able to do, I think, 20 parabolas on. And you've done these flights as well, right?
Yeah, I did it with zero G, what's it called? It's the zero G plane, they call it, but I forget who runs it.
Yeah. It was a great experience. I loved it. But also, I mean, especially now, having worked up here for months, I realized I was a complete klutz. I mean, I had no idea how to do anything in that 20 seconds of weightlessness.
Right.
There's just not enough time. And I think that's very much true also for the suborbital flights. Like it really is, it's after, I mean, hours, but really it's after days and weeks that I feel like I've really come to appreciate all the nuance of how to be efficient up here, and all the little things is what I will remember and kind of cherish about the experience is the stuff where you have to get there longer. And just as an engineer, like I think very roughly up here, our total energy is 9 parts kinetic and 1 part potential. So you're like, the challenge of putting something in orbit. Right,
it's the speed. Yeah.
It's the speed. It's not.
That's fascinating. So, the 90% kinetic, I mean, that makes sense. I've just never heard those traded off. It's like, what is your potential energy just sitting there? That's the force downward. And then what's your lateral kinetic energy that's keeping you in orbit?
Yeah. Huh. That's rough. But I mean, you can just back of the envelope that, but that's about right. So.
Right. Well, that also makes sense why it would be so much higher energetic requirements to get into orbit versus just get to space at the same altitude and back down again, right? It's the lateral injection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just not that hard. I mean, not to diminish it. It's incredibly hard to, in a way that's safe for humans, do these suborbital flights. But what's really hard is putting stuff in orbit.
Right. Right.
We were lucky actually to have so we had the Axiom 2 crew join us for about 8 days up here.
Right.
So I assume you know all about this, right?
Well, no, I don't know the people who were on that mission, but I know of Axiom and that they've scheduled more flights and that they're partnering.
Yeah, and they're basically so they flew up on the Dragon. They come up for about a week. NASA's super on board with this. It's a big priority for NASA to enable these commercial flights. So it was really interesting seeing their experience as well, because they were up here for a full, a little over a week. But it's funny, I think they all had a great experience. We certainly loved having company up here. It was a lot of fun. But it's also just, there's that kind of self-inflicted pressure of get everything done in your short time up there. And it's just so hard to cherish the experience, even after a full week. It's a short time.
Yeah. So does it fall upon you and others up there to show them the ropes? Because I got to imagine a lot of things that you have to learn just to get around and not be a nuisance, as a new entrant station.
Yeah, I think Axiom 1 didn't go super well from that perspective. I think they were a little overtaxed. Axiom 2 went a lot better. We had a great crew, and we honestly didn't have to help that much.
Oh,
but
really?
There's just a natural, it's like anything.
So they prepare them on the ground for everything, like here's how you can use the toilet, here's where the food works, here's how everything works, or does someone have to show them?
Yeah, and the reality... Well,
so to speak.
so
I mean, not every.
trained on the ground,
Yeah.
but the reality is, it's like anything. It's super simple. There's nothing hard about it. Anyone could do it. But I mean, there's little kind of tips and tricks, and so we help out. A lot of it's just the efficiency of like, we have bags everywhere. We just got a new Cygnus spacecraft. We've got just bags full of stuff like all over the place. I'm trying to, let's see, like.
Wow.
Floating over into Node 2 here.
Oh, cool.
So these are what we call cargo transfer bags.
Okay.
This one's actually a bunch of stuff that's slated for return on SpaceX 29. So this will go downhill in a cargo Dragon. But like working up here, when you open one of these things, there's just all this stuff. There's stuff.
Wow.
And look, it's like, it's already floating away on you, right?
Well, I mean,
So,
how do you keep track of all that? Is it like a master database, or is it people's memories?
yeah. No, there's we call it IMS, the inventory management system, but it's just it's just a like hierarchical database of these things are contained in this thing. So that's all tracked really carefully. Anytime we move something, it's updated in the database. So there's that part of it. And then there's also we use a lot of Velcro. Like, everything has Velcro on it.
Because you're not in a pure oxygen environment, right? You're breathing air, not pure oxygen, right?
Correct. Yeah. This is we're actually sea level. The atmosphere up here is a one sea level atmosphere.
Yep. Which, by the way, when it comes to habitats in space, that's a big decision early on. Let's say for a moon colony or a moon base, will it be pure oxygen, low pressure? Because that's got some trade-offs. The moment you go to air, you need a source of nitrogen, and keeping the balance right.
I love that you're bringing that up. That is super insightful and true. We've chosen to, and just the absolute pressure, right? The more pressure you're holding in, you're tasking your structures more severely than if we chose to be at 10,000 feet, for example, and just live at 10,000 feet.
I hadn't thought of this before, because it seems obvious some of the benefits and obviously the fire risk of pure oxygen. But I'm wondering if the design started with the lunar module and the thin, minimizing the weight of that structure and those really thin walls that were famously, And then from that starting point, it's like, well, shoot, now the command module, we don't want to have like different things. So that's going to have to be also 100% oxygen.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's also really interesting seeing it from the EVA perspective, which is a big part of the lunar missions. And there's this whole pre-breathe protocol we do, which is basically to reduce the risk of decompression sickness. Because what happens is, let's see, I have to get this right. For our spacewalks up here, we run at 4.3 psi pure oxygen.
Okay.
So significantly lower pressure than inside, 100% O2. And so when we go from this high pressure in the space station down to the suit pressure, it's like you're coming up from a scuba dive.
So why is the suit
lowering your pressure?
Why is this? The suit is even lower pressure than. Right. But is that suit still a mixture of air, or is it it's a pure oxygen?
Nope. 100% O2.
Okay, so you're going back and forth, kind of like diving, the inverse of diving.
And that's right. And fundamentally, that's why is that in low pressure? It's because moving around a soup is under, like squeezing the gloves, all of these movements. 4.3 psi works. 14 psi, that thing would be super rigid. It would be hard.
Like the first Russian spacewalk with Alexei filling up and can't get back in. Yeah. Interesting. Somehow I hadn't connected. So the walks are 4.3 psi, pure oxygen. Also, you carry less gas with you if you're doing a fully standalone unit. I mean, there's just less air, less stuff to carry. In other words, if the option was, let's just have air tanks, right? That would be just more of everything. It'd be not just the pressure, but just more to carry on your back as well.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep, absolutely.
And so the pre-breathing is as you're getting ready to do an EVA in advance of it, or is it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was lucky to get to do two. And by the way, so to your point about what you want to do at the moon, Totally agree. The EVAs were the absolute highlight. It was the best part. It's the coolest thing I've ever done. It was ridiculously fun.
Okay, I'm gonna write a little note to self.
EVA,
Yeah.
do an EVA.
Awesome.
I want to, yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah, the pre-breathe protocol, you actually start out on a mask, so you breathe 100% oxygen on a mask for a while, and then we've got this complicated profile that I can't claim to actually understand all the nuance of why the profile is the way that it is, but we actually get in the suit, we take the airlock down to 10.2 psi, we get in the suit, we get in that 100% O2 environment, then we come back up to station stack pressure, and basically we're breathing pure oxygen for a long time. That's the pre-breathe. And the point is to get the nitrogen out of our blood, replace that nitrogen, so that we don't get the vents when we go outside.
Right. Because I was like, when I'm thinking about the inverse of diving, it's when you shoot to the surface as a diver, you're going from high pressure to low pressure. That's the problem. So for you, it's the high pressure you're in now to low pressure suit. That's kind of the equivalent. You got to do that slowly, right?
Exactly the same. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. So, and this comes up, the reason I mention it to your comment is this comes up when we think about the architecture for the moon. Because there's just, you end up with all these trade-offs around, like, high percentage oxygen is really good for this pre-breathe issue and also for just keeping the pressures low, like you were saying about structural weight. But then you have all these flammability concerns, obviously. So you end up with these trade-offs and a bunch of people arguing about what the pressure and percentage oxygen should be.
Exactly. Well, Neil, I think those standards personally should be formulated and agreed upon ideally by the international community so that people that want to develop a greenhouse or a habitat or an airlock, they're like, do I need an airlock? Well, let's have everyone be on the same page as to what we're doing. And ideally also power rails. We're going to do 240 volts. What are we going to do? Like just simple things. Be like, get some agreement so we don't have all these interfaces to have to deal with. Right?
So I was interested that so you want to do a spacewalk in low lunar orbit. What do you think about the gateway?
Oh, it's a silly idea. So my first reaction is it's a way to make the bizarre constraints of SLS sort of like shoehorning, like we can't do what we originally wanted to do, and it's not powerful enough to go to the lunar surface, so let's do a gateway because we can at least do that. And then if we take that as a given and we got to do that, then let's try to fit everything around it. Whereas, for example, Starship straight to the lunar surface seems like it seems to me like an easier way to go. There's all kinds of things like, why create more handoff complexity? Now, you could make an argument, maybe, that a lunar orbiting space station could have some science value and could be in support of missions on the ground, but to have everyone pass through there feels like
it's the solution to Orion's small delta V.
Yep, exactly.
It's just...
Yeah, it all comes back to Shelby in Alabama and the perpetual jobs program. God bless him. He's now retired, but I was just in Alabama, a few weeks ago for a different, completely unrelated reason. And I was just thinking, wow, it is crazy. Some of the legacies that carried on from political decisions early on. Let's help develop the South. So why are there facilities in Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Florida? Okay, interesting. Even New Mexico, arguably with Los Alamos and other stuff. It's like, okay, so we want to spread out the federal programs. Makes sense. I can understand that. But then when it comes to an architecture like Space Shuttle, to give Utah some business, we have segmented solid boosters in a way that's got its inherent risks. What a Frankenstein of solids and liquids all coming together, right? In my personal opinion, that wasn't the ideal engineering design.
Right.
In retrospect.
Right.
Yeah. But, the delicate part is, how much do you state the obvious or rain on a parade that's already marching versus kind of nudge or create an attraction to the left, be like, well, there could be a better way, as opposed to trying to, how shall I put it, halt initiatives or momentum, if you will, as opposed to some jinjitsu move, ideally, I think, of showing alternatives, hopefully in time to still use them, right, in a meaningful way, before too much goes down one path.
Yeah, that makes sense. I joined, actually, I feel like I was very fortunate about the time that I got picked up and joined NASA. That was 2017 for me. And I feel like I saw sort of just the tail end of the pain that was Constellation getting canceled. We retired the shuttle in 2011, and we literally didn't have a way to send our astronauts to space until 2020. So, and now, I mean, it's amazing how quickly we become used to the fact that we have a way to fly our astronauts to space. It just feels like a given. But when I joined, it wasn't that way. And I think for folks that got selected, that started off in 2009 or 2013, you really felt that kind of wind down of the shuttle, and it felt like the human space program was ending.
Yeah, that must have been a really dark period, really, morale-wise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, to your point of it being a tough balance. Yeah.
I think you know what's interesting, because I also felt, just my personal walk through life, I haven't been nearly as much of a space enthusiast as you have, clearly, obviously, but I just lived, but I lived through it, right? But I lived through it, and enough to like notice how hope had left the room, even during the shuttle era, even when shuttle was flying, right? It can't go beyond low Earth orbit in any meaningful way. It also felt like a bit of a dead end, and so it was like, well, how, if we, I'm trying how to phrase this, contrast all of that with where we are today, where if you were to say, will we have a presence on Mars, Moon, and elsewhere? It's like, well, of course. It's like, are we just going to be delayed a year or two from the most optimistic forecast or not? It's not a question of if, but just like, and what has changed? Well, it's not subject to the whims of cancellations like Constellation, back and forth, political footballs. It's commercially driven, and as you're seeing with the reliability of Dragon, it's when there's something that's sort of governing it from the business sector, that's a beautiful thing. Just like computing, right? No one would think of going back in either mobile phones or PCs to some government funded, like the government needs a better PC. We're so far past that thought. We're going to leverage PCs, Macintoshes, whatever. We're going to leverage them to the hilt. Thank God somebody made them, right? Well, we don't have to invent that anymore. And it seemed like rockets were something the government had to invent, and, just because of history. But once you see an alternative way, it's like so much better. Right?
Absolutely.
And so I'm really curious to see if that extends to, and can it extend, hence back to the interoperability, can it extend to habitats and fuel depots and everything you might like to see in space if you just fast forward 20 years? Part of the challenge is, let's say as an investor, like what would you bet on when there are pieces of a puzzle that all need to interoperate and come together in timing and what have you? So, sometimes it takes a government to either, set the agenda, like here's what the moonshot's going to be. It's going to be X, Y, and Z, and we need the following things, and let's farm it out. That's one way. Or the government could be a customer that just says, I'm going to buy, water in low Earth orbit, however you can get it there. Railgun on the moon, you name it. Here's the price. Sort of kind of like they did with the COTS program at SpaceX, saying if you can give me launch, here's what I'm willing to buy, and there's business there, and that makes it fundable by the private sector. So I'm not yet seeing that happen, but I maybe have missed it, for lunar exploration or deep space initiatives, but it could. And that's part of the thinking behind, could someone set the international standards? Would someone show some leadership to say, we're going to have, before this decade is out, something on the moon, for example, and paint that picture.
Yeah, I mean, to draw the analogy to ISS, mm-hmm. the cargo contracts were a big part of SpaceX early on, obviously.
Absolutely.
And the context there, of course, was that we had the International Space Station and needed to fly. NASA had a need to fly cargo, to the space station. So I guess my point is, I think you really need the human presence. You really need to set up the, we need to say, hey, we're going to put people on the moon. Like, let's build a moon base. And then we're going to need to supply that moon base. And,
exactly.
And now you've got government demand for all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think you're spot on. And I didn't mean to in any way disagree with what you just said. I think that, as we can clearly see, will lead to all kinds of launch, let's say making Starship, lunar rated and make that cost effective. That you think you could, that it's very clear how that would happen. And I just hope it could be more of an ecosystem, not just SpaceX. I mean, as a obviously SpaceX investor and board member, I'd love to see them gain more and more of the economic pie, sure. But also I'd love to see a thriving ecosystem of other providers. Imagine all you can do in life is a greenhouse, whatever, right? I'm going to figure out food. Someone says, I want to really figure out how we're going to grow food on the moon. Or a really reliable energy source or something like that. It'd be great if they knew what to build to, right? And imagine you want to do that today.
Gotcha.
If you're not an insider, and even if you're an insider, do you really know what you should build?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
There's one other thing, by the way, to the extent your walk through life can ever intersect with people who could make a piece of work happen. I think there's a study someone should do. I'm so tempted by this that I think I'd be willing to fund it myself if someone agrees with me that it can be done as cheaply as I think it can be done, is to test mammalian fetal development in Martian and lunar gravity by spinning up a habitat in low Earth orbit to precisely mimic lunar and Martian gravity, and see if, let's say, a guinea pig, which I just did quick research, which rodent has the longest gestation period. It's like, as far as what I could tell, the guinea pig, it's 60 days. Have a quick integration payload. So you send up something where you've prepared the payload just days prior, basically pregnant guinea pigs with webcams on them. And you just see, do I get a live birth or not? And step one, you don't have any data on what happened. Did it really, if it failed, you'll just have data that it failed. But either way, I think it would motivate, okay, if it works fine, that's great. You just have a video cam of live birth. Everyone seems fine. That's great. Reproduction on Mars or Moon might actually work. If not, it's going to beg some head scratching. And do we need rotating 1G colonies? Is that the only way we're going to have human off-world presence? Or, I think we're all hoping Mars is good enough and Moon is iffy, But is that just because that's what we want? Or do we actually have any hard data that says Martian? And so from what I can tell online, there's very spotty research on this. I think there's a centrifuge on the ISS, but it hasn't been used for this for some reason. I think maybe it induces too much vibration at that speed, or maybe it's just too small of a centrifuge.
We don't have a large centrifuge. We do have actually several small centrifuges, and we actually have had some rodent missions, some rodent experiments that used those centrifuges. Actually, one of them was earlier in my mission. It was not looking at fetal development. It was these tend to be focused on things like bone density and all the stuff that affects us when we're up here. But it was looking at the 1/3. I think it was 1/3, 2/3, 1, and 0 were the
interesting. Everything but lunar. Because
it is funny, right?
Right. We don't want to know about that.
Turns out 1/6 is kind of important. Yeah.
And why 2/3? Where are we going to get that? What? That's a weird one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Maybe there's some off-world colony I haven't thought of on Europa or something, but I haven't looked at the gravity levels.
You would envision, to do the 1/6, would you get the 1/6 on the lunar surface?
No, I think you could do it in low Earth orbit cheaply. So I'm thinking something, by the way, total mission cost of under $10 million, something like that. Total launch, everything. And so you'd have a tether, because to reduce Coriolis effects of a really small thing, at first I envisioned a ring that was just maybe ESPA bus or something that would fit perfectly on some some fast payload integration launch thing. But if you relax that, you just think of a dead weight, a tether, and a thing, and it spins up.
Yep.
And you're just having a bunch of segregated habitats with enough gravity so they can feed and live their life hopefully that's not the challenge of, they just die because they can't figure out how to, drink and eat. And just to have an observation camera. Now here's from what little conversations I've spoken with Chris Hadfield about this and a few others. The presumption at this point is that's great, Steve. That sounds great. But what about PETA, right? And if you don't bring these animals back alive, then all hell will break loose. And I'm like, oh, it's so sad, but maybe true. And so in the back of my mind, I'm almost wondering if it's like a Rocket Lab New Zealand mission or something where if there is, I don't even know if that's a different environment over there, to say, we're going to actually sacrifice, a handful of lab rats. We're just going to, it's not going to be like Leica, we're going to send them up but yeah, we're not going to, yeah. Or maybe there's some gas to, euthanize them or something. But really that has been, because there once was an NASA mission to do exactly what I described, more or less. I mean, there may have been more instruments and more sophistication, but it got shot down from just popular protest. So it's a reality. Like you get all this mission ready to go, and then like, no, someone will be like, you can't do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know nuclear propulsion has had similar problems over the years.
Yeah, it's not rational. Same with GMOs and
it's not rational. Yeah.
In fact, I think the moon should be a regulation-free zone for nuclear energy on the far side. You just pick a crater, test the nuclear reactor. Now, getting the stuff there is a whole nother question, but it's facing away from Earth forever. There's no water table. There's no atmosphere. Who cares if you have a meltdown? Like, just do whatever you want. That's my crazy. Yeah, how do you spur innovation if you can't, do trials here in the U.S. easily? Just do them on the moon.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, no one seems to want to run with that, but because I think launch of tough, like if there was I guess, I don't know if thorium reactors, or if there's any that are like the actual fissile material is not itself a challenge, like if the rocket, exploded on launch while still on Earth, something like, I know nuclear fusion is that way, exactly. There's no radiation product of the fuels or materials, only when it's running are there a few neutrons that come out. So fusion testing on the moon would be easy, but luckily fusion is not being regulated. I see a little notice. We're going to have a little loss of signal coming up.
Got a KU handover coming up. There you go.
Oh, it's KU band. Oh, cool. Our favorite microwave band.
We have 4 space-to-ground channels. 1 and 2 are S-band, 3 and 4 are KU band. Most of the space station commanding and telemetry is all happening on S-band, but all of the video, like what we're using right now, video, email for us, like sending down photos, all that stuff is KU.
Gotcha. Yeah, the higher frequency. Oh, wow. So we'll keep talking until it cuts us off, and then when we come back, I should show you some space artifacts, because I collect stuff from the Apollo program. And,
I know you do.
and including an S-band whole transponder system.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
And I also want to offer, is there anything on the space station that you want to see? Because I can take you around.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you want.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to see the cupola, I don't know if it's open. You said it's nighttime now, right?
The cupola?
Yeah, cupola, excuse me.
Let me check. We might be coming into the day, so
Ooh.
I can totally take you to the cupola.
That's right. You just wait 45 minutes.
Wi-Fi is yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we're. Let's see. It'll load soon.
Sure.
Wi-Fi in the cupola is sometimes spotty, but hopefully good enough to at least see the view. Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. So you have Wi-Fi running throughout the whole station, pretty much.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and we actually have a couple networks. We have one network that we use for what we call our ops products. So
I think we lost you.
Welcome back.
Absolutely.
We are back. Here, can I show you? We are, it is daytime, and if I wait too long, it will become nighttime again. So
let's do it.
I'll show you around a couple things. Let's see. We're facing station starboard right now. If I make a left turn right here, now we're facing station forward, and down through that dark tunnel, I don't know if you can see it, is my Dragon vehicle.
Oh, wow. Dragon at the perch.
So this is, yeah, exactly. So that's where we come if we have an EMER scenario. We all go get in Dragon and figure things out.
Is there always one Soyuz at station as well? Or like
Yes.
in terms of escape craft? Yeah.
That's been a bit of an, yeah. So right now we have 7 crew up here. 4 of them are the Dragon crew, and 3 flew up on Soyuz. We're putting through U.S. lab right now, and back toward node 1.
Okay.
So facing aft, and through that hatchway with the pink walls is the Russian segment.
Ah.
And then actually we just got a brand new Cygnus spacecraft. So if I go straight down, that is our Northrop Grumman Cygnus.
Oh, wow.
That we've been uploading over the past few days. So it's a big...
That's the final mission for that launch vehicle, too.
That's correct. Yeah, the... what is it? Antares 200 series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next few are going to be on a Falcon. And then this is node 3 with our exercise equipment and our toilet.
Oh, wow. Let me see that. I got to see the toilet. You know.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
It's a crowd favorite.
Okay. So this is called WHC, which stands for Waste and Hygiene Department.
Okay.
It's basically a little outhouse.
Yep.
This door closes on it. And then when you go in there, the can you see, the metal can is where the poop goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then this hose here on the wall is where the urine goes.
Urine collection,
So
yep.
I'm trying to fit
Wow.
the camera here. Yeah, so I'll pull it off here. It's been capped in a weird way. We get pretty used to touching all the toilet components.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, just a long hose, and you pee in there, and it's just suction. So you get suction into the urine hose here when you turn it on, and then we also get a little bit of downward suction into what's called the KTO, which is it's actually Russian hardware.
Oh, wow.
So you pop with the lid here. I can do it briefly. It'll start to smell after a little bit, but that's where you go, number 2.
Yep.
And these bags have like these little tiny perforated holes at the bottom that allow the downward air suction. And so you just go in that, and then yeah, usually you need a little bit of like mechanical separation. Not too graphic about it.
No, I heard it described by Richard Garriott, who was in a civilian to the station not long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, he had interesting analogies. Like, imagine you're squeezing toothpaste from a tube. You know, on Earth, it would pinch off and fall to gravity. In space, it just hangs in the air.
Yep.
Yep.
That's
Someone's got to invent a better version of this.
Like it's definitely. Oh yeah, somebody will come up with a bit. You said somebody should come.
Yeah, someone needs to put some energy into a better one, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, it is crazy that we have, like, we're in this extreme place, and we have this huge room devoted to toilet. We have that metal can. Like, can you imagine how much that weighs and how many of those we have up here? Like, just the amount of infrastructure.
Oh, do you mean is the metal can disposed of, or is it just the bags that are just? Oh, the whole metal can gets tossed.
Let me show you something.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Let me show you something crazy. Okay, yeah, it's ridiculous. So, so that thing gets capped, and you, we burn it up in Cygnus. It re-enters and burns up. I'm going to take you. Hopefully, we get Wi-Fi back here. I'm going to take you back to the first module in the Russian segment.
Sure.
And show you something absolutely insane.
When shit flies. Right. Do the Russians all like hang out in their segment mostly, or
do this?
Oh, no way!
Do you know what that is?
Wait, that's not a stack of those things, is it?
That's a stack of those things.
Oh my god!
It goes for longer than you can imagine. We're gonna keep going.
It's like vintage, like different eras.
Some of these are for Some of these are also, to be fair, are for urine and water.
Sure.
And those ones we actually do reuse.
Yep. Wow. Amazing.
But yeah, a lot of stuff gets thrown away. The other crazy thing we need a solution to, which actually affects even the SpaceX cargo missions, is foam. So everything that flies up here comes in these crazy foam cushions, and everybody's really, really conservative, of course, because of launch forces about just protecting their fragile hardware. But you just end up with, I mean, I'd say, I'm trying to decide if it's more or less than half. Probably right around half of the volume of stuff coming uphill on a cargo Dragon is either foam or bubble wrap. That's just a rough guess.
And we thought Amazon.com was wasting packaging material.
Yeah. I mean, this is, we're unpacking Cygnus right now. This is a bag of bubble wrap.
Wow.
This is a bag of straps.
Wild.
This is another bag of bubble wraps.
And there's no way to like compress or systematically pop the air, like the air packs?
Yeah, the air cushions you can pop. It turns out, since we're sending stuff downhill on Dragon, we actually save it, and we have a pretty decent balance because we have to pad it for return as well. So we end up using a lot of bubble wrap on downhill Dragons.
Sure.
But I think on the whole, we still end up burning up foam and bubble wrap.
Right.
So, all right, let me show you real quick. So we're in node 3, and I'm trying to mess with the camera. Right below, oh man, I've got one.
Oh my gosh.
Closed. So I'll have to open that hatch. But this is our view when we exercise. This is right below us.
Amazing. Now, is there something blocking the central circular view? Or is that an illusion?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking for here we go. Open it up.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow.
Yep. Hang on. Let's just.
Uh-oh. The Wi-Fi is not good there. You mentioned. Nope. Your voice is back. I think the Wi-Fi dropped, perhaps.
Okay. Soon. I'm looking.
Oh, yeah.
Aft, actually.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing. There's Soyuz.
Yeah. So this is looking at state. That's a Soyuz. Yep. And European robotic arm on the MLM module. And astronaut colleagues are going to do an EVA, and they're going to do the first Russian EVA to use that robotic arm, a little Euro.
Oh, shoot.
That's not Canada. Let's see. What else can I show you?
This is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Raise.
Oh, I think Wi-Fi cut out.
Oh. Solar arrays out there.
Oh, the image has frozen. I hear your voice now. Oh, shoot. Hello? Ground control to Major Tom. Oh, there you are.
Hey.
I can't believe this is live. Wow.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know if you can see it, but up there on the front of Crew 6 Dragon capsule, that's what I flew up here in.
That's beautiful. Oh, thank you. She looks wonderful this time of day. The Wi-Fi, can you hear me okay? Because the Wi-Fi
Exactly. Out here, you got the exposed facility, in and out.
Yep. Oh wow, what's that spinning?
So that is the exposed facility. That is either
Oh,
not to be an antenna. Don't know exactly what it does. It's outside, so I never interact with it. It's on facility. That's that platform sticking off the Japanese experiment launch.
wow.
When we were docking on our thermal camera, things spinning way off in the distance.
Wow.
Flashing on, let's see, this is Cygnus.
Oh wow, yeah.
Docked right up outside the cupola. Yeah, that just arrived. We had a view that Nest is right. It's got a couple of its own solar panels.
It looks like a trash can. It's amazing.
Yeah, this place is huge.
Wow.
It's totally, yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And I don't know. You saw the just look
Shoot.
out at our. Okay.
It's not connecting well.
There we go.
I'm only getting sporadic. Oh, beautiful.
I'll fail here since we're having some issues. All right.
That was amazing. It still blows my mind that we're doing this live. It's like insane.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, the connectivity up here is incredible. It blows my mind. But I mean, if you think about it, we're using the same infrastructure you use on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, I mean, we're basically Earthlings up here. I'm only 400 kilometers away from the surface.
I'm also interested that I don't just randomly see people as you go about. Are most people sleeping now, or do the Russians stay in the Russian section?
We're actually so I think they're all back in the Russian segment right now. We're wishing them luck tonight for their EVA tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'll head back there, after we hang up. But yeah, it's on a typical night right now. Folks would be like retiring to their crew quarters, maybe calling home.
Mm-hmm.
We're on GMT time, as you probably know. So it's like after dinner right now, after the workday.
Gotcha. So you maintain a GMT schedule
workday,
throughout.
You would see people floating through all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you get to keep a normal sleep schedule. You're not you keep a normal sleep schedule. It's not like rotating the way they do on nuclear subs or something. They'll do crazy schedules for some reason.
We get up around 6 every day. Typical workday is 7:30 to 7:30.
Okay.
We have a morning conference at 7:30 a.m. and then we finish out the day at 7:30 p.m. Usually eat dinner after that and get to bed. So it's not crazy. We actually do get some, but not all weekends off. Time to catch up on personal email and that kind of stuff. So it's definitely busy, but it's honestly not. It's nothing crazy.
Are there any resources that are in contention, like the time in the cupola or something, where people wish there was more of access to something?
Here's Steve.
Oh, hey. Hello.
That I'm not here alone.
Yeah, it's haunted. There's no one there.
Yeah, exactly. This is.
It's like some strange movie. You're like, he thinks he has friends up there, but he's all alone.
But not so much. Yeah, it's actually. Yes, I think Steve's talking to his family right now. So
cool.
He's over in Columbus.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, you were talking about resources.
Yeah, is there anything you wish there was more of something, either time to view Earth with a camera, or I don't know. It sounds like EVAs are your favorite thing.
Yeah, I would do more EVAs if I could. Honestly, that would be my answer. I could do that, like one a week would be fine with me. I got to do two, which I'm very, very happy with. My wish was to get to do at least one, so I got double that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's just super fulfilling because we spend a lot of time training for that stuff. I didn't find it to be too hard, but it's like mentally challenging, it's physically challenging, and it's a really fun interaction with the ground because you have hundreds of people watching, like looking at every little detail. I mean, like for example, I bumped a connector at one point. I didn't even know, but my glove went by and hit the wing tab on this little wing tab electrical connector, and I bumped it by like 20 degrees. They caught it instantly, and they called it up. Hey,
oh wow,
you got to reseat that connector. But it's just cool to be part of this process where like everybody's so tuned into what's happening, and
right.
It was super fulfilling.
Were you there? Did your time there?
I look forward to your lunar EVAs very much.
There you go. Were you there when the leaks were happening on the Soyuz craft, or was that before you got there?
Yeah. So that's been an interesting part of this, and I'm glad you know about that. So my colleague Frank Rubio, he's actually my classmate. He flew up on that Soyuz that leaked, and toward the end of his mission, it leaked, and so he got extended from 6 months to a year.
Oh wow!
Which is pretty tough. He's a family man. He's got his kids are graduating college right now, graduating high school and going off to school. So this is their last year in the house, and he's missing it. So that extension from 6 months to a year, I mean, he handled it like so well. I was so impressed with that, but that was tough for him.
Yeah.
And I've actually had nothing like what he's dealing with, but we actually have a whole contingency plan for what happens if the one that's up here now leaks. Because you probably know there was also a progress leak.
Right.
So we had two
in a row
spacecraft built around the same time that both leaked from their radiator. It's the theory was that both got hit by micrometeorite debris, but if you think about it, that's kind of tough to believe. So
statistically, very much anomalous. Yeah.
It's quite anomalous. Yeah. So there's lots of thinking about what we do if the one that's up here now leaks, because I think we're not going to send Frank home on that. So there's a whole complicated contingency plan, and at the end of the day, I would be up here for a year. It's just hard to know exactly what was going on there inside the spacecraft, but I think fingers crossed that the one that's up here now doesn't have the same issue that those ones did.
I think in the preparation for this, I also came to learn that we share another interest in common, which is the Tripoli Rocketry Association. In fact, I saw that you're in, I think, a March or April issue of this year, a little profile article they wrote on you. And it's so funny because like last night I was, grinding away some aluminum on a minimum diameter rocket that I'm going to launch next month at Balls, which is the big event, as you know, in Black Rock Desert. My son and I have gone ever since he's been 3 years old. So this will be the 20th year of us going to Balls.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
So that's interesting. So I mostly went to LDRS, and I think I've been to one Balls. But so it sounds like you mostly go to Balls.
Yes, exactly. Partially because it's close enough. It's always in the Black Rock Desert, and from here it's not so crazy. I've gone to the LDRS in Argonia, Kansas, one year, which is not too far from the Cosmodrome.
That was like 2003.
Wow. Interesting. It may have been in more than 1 year, because I think the year I went, because I saw that in the Tripoli report that you went, I think, an earlier year, and then it came back again in like either 2007 or 17, something more recently. So I don't think we overlapped, which if we had, I was going to look to see if I had photos of your launches or anything, but I don't think I do. And then there was one year where LDRS was in the Black Rock Desert, and I went to that one as well. It was. Yeah,
that was maybe 07 or 09 or something like that.
Did you go to that one by any chance?
I was in grad school then, and I had kind of slowed down in my rocketry stuff, but I'm trying to think, was that there was one in Primm, Nevada. Is that
No, I haven't been to that one.
Okay, I think that's yeah. This is different.
And
I did not go to Black.
were you the Pittsburgh Tripoli prefecture or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because they always
It
have
happens
this big van.
Prefecture number one.
Wow. Yes, and they have a big showing, and it's a long drive.
So, so Steve, it's funny. This is actually how I found out about you. I way back. I saw your TED talk showing a bunch of rocket photos, and that was actually the first time I ever knew of your existence. And then, later as I kind of, I don't know, learned about the tech and entrepreneurship world, I learned a lot more about you. But anyway, that was my, I loved that. That was,
Well, I think it's really inspirational to, not my talk, but just rocketry in general. I mean, there have been, like for example, there was a contest in Texas a few weeks ago, and this was their promotional material. I love that message. And their argument is that they tracked down everyone like Bob, and it's not just any place in Antarctica. There's this really bizarre phenomenon where there's this glacier that's slowly sliding down, but hits a solid rock piece and sort of gets pushed upward. And the place where it gets pushed upward happens to have just the perfect amount of winds to blow away snow over time. So to make a long story short, thousands of years, maybe hundreds of thousands of years of meteorite falls would be all scattered out density-wise equally across the Antarctica. But this one place, they're sort of accumulating because as the ice pushes up, the rocks just sit there and have accumulated over time. So there's a high density of meteorites that had fallen over that glacial field that are all sort of at the terminus. I can think of it that way. It's almost like a vertical terminus of a glacier of all things. And so it just accumulates tons of them. But you can't own those by international law. So I don't have anything from Antarctica, not just because you're not allowed to own them as an individual. Or you're not allowed to export them, I guess is the theory. Okay. Only scientists with some international...
And that's by treaty?
I think it's some treaty, yep. I don't even know what it is, but yeah. So
the Martian one is Libya? And where
it landed in Libya, yep. And the lunar was also somewhere in Sahara. It's like... I have a few really random, rare ones that aren't Northwest Africa. Basically, Sahara Desert is code for Northwest Africa. But I do have, I can show you. I mean, if you just want like a historic one. This one's kind of crazy. This one is in a display rings. I only have a slice of it. But this landed in 1492 in this region of France that basically wars were declared over it. It's like people didn't understand that rocks could fall from the sky. It was thought to be a divine omen of sorts. In fact, in Estonia and in Australia, there were basically religious implications for witnessed meteor falls. Like they absolutely worked it into their Aboriginal beliefs. And then one other crazy one. Oh yeah, this one. Sorry, this one's even older. This one is from 1790. Well, actually, it's not older. Excuse me, more recent. But the reason it's really interesting is that right at the cusp between believability and not that rocks could fall from the sky. So when it fell in 1790. No one had a theory for rocks falling out of the sky. If you think about it, it's kind of crazy when you barely understand Galileo and Copernicus. You're like, what, rocks, like hailstones? What? How does a rock fall from the sky? But this one killed a farmer, and everyone was like, no, you guys are lying. They had like 300 witnesses that this thing streaked through the sky, but despite that, no one believed them, and so it's still contested. It's not for certain because no one at the time believed the hypothesis that a rock could go through the air and kill someone. And as far as we know, that's never happened since. So it's kind of a rare thing. But let me think. Do you have like a minute or two before we have to go for me to show you some stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to have to unplug. I think this will